I just kind of want to talk a little bit about what this training is and how it fits into our larger curriculum. This is the beginner outreach training today, and you can kind of see the things that this will be focusing on. And again, if you're having problems in the back, feel free to come up. We're looking at both personal and systemic aspects of homelessness, outreach, engagement, building trust, doing the sustainability piece with healthy relationships, navigating the resources, and doing active listening skills. But that is just the beginning. A lot of you have been doing outreach for a long time. A lot of you are new to this. A lot of you are coming at this from the organizer perspective, which we love, and we also share that organizer perspective. The other trainings we have are going to be a little bit more in depth in other areas. The intermediate training, you can kind of see that's like our next step. Our level 2 for the outreach training, and our level 3 training is the advanced. So as you're building these tools and these skills, we invite you to keep honing those in with us. We realized that just doing one outreach training wasn't covering it. Outreach is pretty in-depth, and there's a lot that comes up. So that's why we've created the 3 modules and the 3 levels. We also have an advocacy and policy and organizing training coming up. We'll go over these dates again at the end. That's going to be September 20th, and we also have a winter outreach training coming up. So that's like emergency response mode. So if you want to put these on your calendar, we'll show this again at the end. But this is how this piece fits into our larger curriculum. So the first thing I want to do is, outreach has a science to it. There are evidence-based practices. There are things we do and we don't do, but it's also really common sense and it's very relational. So I want to open this up by thinking about a time when you needed help. I want you to think of a time that was really dark in your lives and that you really struggled and that you were uncertain about what was going to happen next. Okay? Everybody have a time? How did it feel is what I want to ask. So when you were in that time, how did it feel?
I'm actually here now.
Okay.
Going through a breakup.
Yep.
Like what's next, because I thought I was going to marry the person. Different emotions.
Yeah.
I've reached out to new people that I can trust with information because I was in an abusive relationship. And so it's dark some days.
Yeah. So it's dark and it's uncertain.
Right.
Yep. What about other people? How did you feel during that time? What are the feelings that you had? That's hard.
I had a sense of urgency.
Urgency.
Like immediate. Something needed to happen immediately.
And there's sometimes an anxiety that comes along with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
How else did people feel during this time?
Exhausted.
Exhausted.
Sad.
Sad. What else?
Hopeless.
Hopeless, desperate.
My trouble focusing.
Yeah. So, what else?
Ashamed.
Yes. Ashamed. What else? Numb. So sometimes there's a lot of feelings and sometimes there's not. And a paralysis can come with that numbness, right? Anything else you want to lift up? I felt alone during my time. Trapped. Okay. So, who helped you? What was the relationship like with the person who helped you? Who stepped in to help? Friends. Who else?
Parents.
Family members, parents. Anybody else?
Higher power.
Who?
Your higher power.
Higher power. God. Yeah. So a lot of times it's the people we already have relationships with. That doesn't help at all. Okay. We could keep going on the helpful things. What is not helpful? So let's put shaming on here.
Yeah.
Right? What else is not helpful?
Giving advice.
Too much advice.
Judgment.
Yes. What else?
Belittling what you're going through.
Yeah, minimizing it or belittling it. Yeah, dismissing it. Anything else?
Being non-responsive.
Not responding.
Yeah.
So not responding.
Being ignored is hard.
Yes.
Distractions.
Yeah. Being distracted.
Facebook, you know.
What?
I mean, if they're too worried about Facebook,
Yeah.
try to think of it.
Yeah. Or making your stuff public, right?
That's the worst.
Okay.
Yeah.
Publicizing your struggles. Okay. Blaming. Totally. So shaming, blaming. So we could keep going on any of these, right? But the point of this is we have all struggled with dark times, and we all know what it's felt like to be helped and to not be helped. And so we are really, you already know how to help your friends and your people. So if we can kind of cultivate this and learn some skills around this, especially with our friends on the streets, we don't need to know all the evidence-based practices and all the research, right? It's really relational. So it's real common sense. So we're inviting you into this space with us, but we do have some tools too. So, cool. So thanks for doing that. I want to start tonight off with a little bit of a foundation and groundwork, thinking about what some of our friends have experienced. Have any of y'all heard about the research around ACE, the adverse childhood experiences? Has anybody heard about that? There's a lot of research right now that looks into adverse childhood experiences, like the things on this screen, and says, you know, when people struggle later on in life or seem to make bad decisions later on in life, those decisions aren't happening in a vacuum, right? There's a lot of things that goes into people's behavior, into their health, both mental and physical and emotional. And so we need to take these things into consideration when we're seeing someone who isn't acting the way we think they should be acting. There's also more talk about the fact that societal dysfunction also impacts people's ability to be healthy and whole in the present. So I added this as like a sticky note because oppression and discrimination also matter. That's an adverse childhood experience that people have, an adult experience, right? That really impacts people's ability to cope with things. So what are some of the effects of these adverse childhood experiences? There's a lot. And this is the research, and this is the kind of addition or critique to the research, right? What do you notice in this? Does anything stand out to you?
Yeah, it's more physical and mental health problems.
Yeah. Just because of the trauma they experience. There's something biological about that trauma. Your body remembers and changes chemistry because of it, right? Yeah. So when we're working with people, this is kind of a critique of it's their fault. They're on the streets because they're defective. That kind of logic that is not helpful at all, right? So I want to kind of introduce this as one of the foundations that we come to understanding outreach framework. This is my first garden. I started really small. It went okay. But I want to thinking about homelessness by talking about a garden. What does a plant in a garden need to grow? Water. Sunlight. What else? Soil, nourishment. And what's in the soil, right? Nutrients. Anything else?
Choke out, you need to get the weeds out.
Sometimes, yeah, it needs a good, environment so the weeds don't choke them out or eat all their nutrition. Anything else?
It needs love.
It needs love, too.
Shelter from bad weather.
Yes. Yes. So protection from things like pests or things that could come in and destroy the whole crop. So I want us to think about the plants as people and the soil as our community. If a plant's not growing properly in my garden, am I just going to rip it out and throw it away and say, that plant is terrible, it's defective, I'm getting rid of it? No. What do I do?
I'm going to try to bring it back.
I try to bring it back. I try to look at, does it have what it needs in the soil to grow? Does it have the right light? Are the locusts coming for it? Like, are the weeds coming for it? Are they like getting in? So there's a lot going on in the environment of our community that does not produce healthy people. And some of those things, that's how we get into organizing, advocacy, and policy, right? Changing some of that soil so more people can flourish. But I want us to kind of build this into our framework of understanding homelessness too. Cool? Again, this is the beginning. This is the beginning foundation. We can't talk about the soil of our community without talking about what's going on in Nashville right now. Some of you all are new, some of you have been here for your whole lives. Our city is being ripped up and everyone is being displaced, especially people who are of low income. People who are poor, people who are black and brown. It's a racial thing, it's an economic thing, and it's terrible. People are being priced out. Whole complexes of affordable housing are being sold to a higher bidder, and all the people are having to move somewhere else. This is what's going on in our city. On top of that, we have campsite closures. We have people with pets and couples and other folks who can't live in traditional shelters, and they're being closed out. We have poverty being criminalized. So we have people that are just fighting to exist, and they're getting ticketed for obstructing the passageway. They're getting ticketed for public intox, where the cop will go around the tourist and go around the college student and get our person, right? So there's a lot of discrimination in our policies. This is the soil of our community right now. One of my good friends, who's a civil rights organizer, says Nashville's becoming a playground for the rich and a prison for the poor. And you can see these different views, different worlds of Nashville. I would add that Nashville's also becoming a graveyard for the poor. We buried over 70 people from our homeless community last year. That's more than homicides. Our friends are literally dying. So what we're doing in this room, the things we're cultivating, the community and networks we're cultivating are really important. So enter homeless outreach. Why y'all are here. Homeless outreach is about meeting people where they are, and that's not just geographically, that's also emotionally and spiritually. We accept people where they are and journey with them. It's deeply relational, which I've already mentioned. And in our philosophy, we think that people are not problems to be fixed or cases to be managed, but brothers and sisters, siblings to be loved and journeyed with. That's different from the case management. People are cases, and we have a certain caseload, right? That mentality. That is social work. We are something different, even though we do social work too. We also have a mantra at Open Table that we say every day of our lives. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. Say it with me. I'm just kidding. Things happen all the time that we don't expect. Every day our plans change. So we try to have flexibility and grace and invite you to do that with us too when you're doing outreach. The more rigid we are, the more we'll break. But if we can bend and be flexible. So where are our friends? They are in the shadows of progress. They are under bridges where no one can see them. They're forming makeshift homes out of dumpsters. This is where we meet them. They're in the hospital beds. They're with untended wounds and no medical insurance. You know these things. You've seen it. You've met the people. We rope in trauma to our training, not only because trauma-informed care is an evidence-based practice, but because it really changes people's biology, and it's something we have to understand when we're entering into homeless outreach, that people have been rewired that have experienced trauma. Some of us have experienced trauma in this room and know what it's like to be triggered. It's like sitting in a room full of rattlesnakes, some trainer said. If you're sitting in a room of rattlesnakes, are you focused on what I'm saying? No. You are thinking about that thing that no one else can hear, no one else can fear or feel, and you're looking around you. That is your immediate struggle. So this puts people into survival mode, right? It's really hard to see beyond your immediate circumstances, and all of your priorities change, which again you know. What happens in survival mode is another thing. People have to learn how to read other people really quickly. And this is important in outreach because people are reading you really quickly that you meet. They have to do that to survive. And they can know, some people can know in a second if they can trust you, if you're full of crap, if whatever. People can pick that up by the way you're present and attentive to them. So trauma-informed care then takes that into understanding. It understands that, and it kind of creates these like refuges or sanctuaries for people to come where they feel safe. People can't heal when they're alone. Healing only happens in the context of relationships that are supportive and non-judgmental, and just about everything we named on that helpful side of the board. And only when hope and trust are present can people start believing that something positive could happen in their own lives. And sometimes we are the holders and carriers of that hope with people. And it's important to realize, I think a lot of service providers that we come around really think about people as needy, right? They have needs, so we're going to meet their needs, we're going to provide them services. But our friends are incredible, and on the streets, they also have strengths, and they are resilient. And if we can't take that into consideration and start shifting that narrative from victim to survivor, then we're missing out on a large part of who they are and what they can offer, right? We have every bit as much to learn from our friends on the streets as they do from us. So I want to talk a minute just about some tips for approach and engagement for people. How many of you all are completely new to outreach? You've never really, maybe you've volunteered a couple times, but you've never really done any outreach things. Anybody completely new? Got some hands. Okay, cool. There's not a science to approach. We treat people naturally like other human beings. We don't treat them as another. We treat them as a potential friend, and we're curious about their situations. We don't ever come up on them from behind, which can be kind of eerie. We maintain comfortable distances away. We approach people as equals. And one of the reasons I really love this picture is because of the body language. Can y'all see what's happening in this picture, even though the lights are on? What's happening? What do you notice in that picture? What?
On his level.
Yeah, so there's two people. They're both on the same level. Can you tell any guesses about what's happening or who they are?
They're being approached at night at their tent.
Yeah, so it's dark. There's a little bit of light coming in, but it's darker. There's a little lamp on in their tent. They connected to an electricity pole and got some electricity. It's a tent. And this is one of our friends at the old tent city, and this is Jack, who's an outreach worker. Jack's a big dude. If you can't tell, he looks like a cop when he's presenting himself. There's nothing wrong with that. But when a person with that kind of body presents himself into a campsite, it can be triggering for people. So he's doing a lot to get on her same level. And he's leaning in, and he's using open body language, right? And from what we can tell, she's comfortable speaking to him, which is really cool. Anybody notice anything else about that picture?
He's allowed them to become intimate and conversation. And
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah, he has that trust. You can see it in the way they're interacting. She's leaning in. Yeah. So we're aware of our body language and how we present. Maybe if somebody's going through domestic violence, the male might not be the best person to go in there, right? Or if somebody's triggered by some past sexual abuse or trauma. So that kind of equality is what we're trying to get to. When we do outreach, we're going to people's homes. It's a sacred space, and we're the intruders and the outsiders. So just cultivating that awareness. This was David's home. This ranch where he sat for years, where he died, that was his home. And when we approached him as that is his home and it is sacred, and we asked to come talk with him. Hey, do you want to talk today, or are you doing your own thing? You do want to talk? Awesome. You don't? Cool. So we appreciate him. We also are very mutual in the way that we journey alongside each other. There are different ways to journey with each other. I would love for somebody to come up real quick, just to volunteer really quick. Maybe one of our interns, like Miriam.
I got it.
Okay. So there are different ways we can journey with each other, and if you want to come over here, you're still on the light. Sorry.
Oh.
No, it's okay. People can't see us. We'll get over here.
Oh.
Okay. So there are different ways Miriam and I can journey together. Miriam, I'm Lindsay. I'm an outreach worker.
Lindsay.
It's really good to meet you. I could carry Miriam forward, and we could go doing that, but I would eventually burn out. I'm strong, but Miriam doesn't need me to carry you all the way, right?
Right.
I would burn out if that happens. I could push you toward where your goals are and where I want you to go. And that is kind of sucky too, right? That's not very fun. I could confront you and stand like this, and that's not comfortable either. So the way we journey with our friends on the streets is side by side. Miriam can lead the relationship if she needs to, and I can too if things go weird. But we are mutual, we're equal. You have your view of the world, I have my view of the world. And I'm not carrying you, you're not carrying me. So, cool. Thank you. So we really try to get that mutuality and equality and those interns. And one of our favorite quotes when we talk about this is from Lilla Watson, who was an Aboriginal organizer and educator. She says, "If you've come to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." We are not in this to help or save or fix or rescue. We are in this because we are liberated through this work. We find part of ourselves and we learn and are transformed through the relationships we form. So that's the kind of stuff I want us to be cultivating in our outreach, the way we do outreach. Okay? If you're in it to fix or rescue, you're going to get burned out and it's not going to be healthy. So, any questions about what we covered before I bring up our expert? Yeah, Brendan.
I'll throw one out there. Do you think there's a way to improve the quality of general welfare without having residents move away from their home?
So, like, residents move
I
away.
mean, I would, to me, like, what I'm kind of thinking about is like when the homes were built in Nashville, like 1920s, 1930s, and then moved out to the suburbs, then moved into the city, and now Nashville is literally the fastest growing city in America.
Yeah.
And because of that, you've got more or less people that have enough cares to put in front of folks to be able to move out. How do you maintain I guess my question is, how would you maintain an effective homeless outreach program in that type of environment where, I'm thinking like structurally, like I've seen the mini home communities
Yeah.
posts, but how do you like more or less walk a homeless person? Well, let's go ahead and not even throw in the site or use part. Let's just totally not even look at that part. All we're looking at is they're outside of a home,
Yeah.
and they're alone and they don't want to go anywhere.
I think your question might be something different than we need to discuss in this training, but I think I hear your point a little bit. It's really hard to do outreach when all your people are being displaced, whether it's from campsites or housing, low-income housing or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if this is getting what you're asking, but one of the things I would say is you fight back with legislation and policy. You don't just do outreach, but you go upstream. And that might be a completely different answer than what you're kind of thinking, but we should definitely keep talking about that. When our people are being displaced, we fight back. And that's going to be in the later trainings too. Balea, would you be up for coming up? Yeah. Awesome. So, Balea and I have known each other for a long time, watch all the tricky chords, and I wanted to ask her if she would come and talk to us. Yeah, out of the light. I wanted to ask if you'd come and talk to us about like building trusting relationships, because at the center of good outreach is the ability to build trust with your people.
Yeah.
So, I want you to take the floor.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, I'm Vallejo and I'm still homeless. Just learning how to live again. You can't save me, you can't save me, you can't save me. But you can help me and give me encouragement. Sometimes when you go out there and outreach with us, It's okay to put your heart in your pocket sometimes. Because some of us is going to need that tough love. But if you want, don't be my friend. Just help me. It's okay to listen. It's okay to ask questions. But don't overwhelm me or you wanting to know more and more and more. It's one day at a time. One day. And just that one person you can say within that time. Just listening and asking questions. Because some of you guys come out to us, it's like, blah, 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 what you need, blah, blah, blah. But you not one time ask me, how did I get here? What happened? But you want me to feel comfortable with you. And how you want me to feel comfortable with you? I want to get to know you, and I want you to get to know me. You know, and I was explaining to Lindsay, you know, everybody's coming at like, say for instance, one day I deal with you, next day I deal with you. Well, you told me, you promised me you was going to get me a tent, but you can't get me no tent, so I'm going to get it from her. It's communication among you guys. You guys have to communicate, because if not, it's going to continue on and on and on. But what you want to do with us, you want to help us. You want to help us by all means. Please don't give us no money. Please don't do that, because you're enabling us. Don't do that. You can love me by helping me. I mean, you can ask me, what are your goals? What are your plans? What are you going to do from here? Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? You know, but when we're out there, yes, we do have needs. We have plenty of needs. Please do not promise me nothing, because I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to hold you to it, and most of us do, because we have nobody else. All we see are you guys. So when I say for you guys to build trust with each other or with me, ask me questions. Ask me, where am I going from here? You know, don't, and they'll tell you. If you're going to feel, if they're feeling comfortable with you, they're going to tell you what happened. Why am I like that? And what I told Lindsay, I didn't want to use that word when you're getting to know a person. Don't analyze them. That's a strong word. Be more observant. Look at who you're talking to. Look at me eye to eye. Again, get to know me. You know, because most of us, some of us can't be manipulative. You know, because that's all we're used to. Some of us, this is all we know. This is where we want to go. But if you see in me that I'm willing and I'm determined, help, please. You know, it was those things that she showed up there. The abuse, the child abuse, the mental illness that got me where I was. I lived this life for so long until it hit me and knocked me down to rock bottom. So it's like swimming in a swimming pool and you're trying to get up for air and you can't. So it's like, okay, so you get up there and you get back down. You get up there, you get back down. Well, hell, I'm tired. I'm tired. Please, somebody help me. Show me the way. Show me which way to go. You know, and like I said, please don't take my problems home to your problems. Don't get us confused. You know, just let me know that you're going to help me, but don't promise me. Just let me know you'll see what you can do. So, like I said, as far as us being out here, some of us are not out here by choice. Things happen in our life that put us out here. And one thing homeless do not discriminate. And how does homeless look? Can one person tell me how homeless look? Because you never know where you're going to end up.
Looks like
tomorrow,
me. Yeah,
today.
looks like me. Looks like her.
And look,
It looks like everyone.
I sell my homeless paper, and this guy drove up to me. He said, I'm going to give you $1 because you don't look homeless. I said, sir, tell me how homeless look. Just because I'm homeless, mean I have to live like I'm homeless. If I like to wear earrings, if I like to wear clothes, I'm going to take my money and I'm going to buy me clothes and I'm going to buy me earrings because I earned that. But if you see me willing, determined, and trying, help me. But don't overwhelm you guys trying to save the world, because it'll never happen. It'll never, ever happen. But if you can save one person, pat yourself on the back. That's one person that you got out of being homelessness. And that's what I was telling Lindsay. I'm just now learning to live again, which is okay with me. But where do we go from there? Okay, you got me housing. Now you just dump me off and forget me and that's it? So, well, I ain't got nothing to do, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my old lifestyle. I don't want that. I want you to let me know that I'm okay, that it's okay. There's churches, there's things for me to do, there's activities, there's meetings I can go to, there's something that I can do that I don't have to go back to old people, places, and things, excuse me. I just want to be able to live life. That's it. I don't want a whole lot of money. I don't have to have money to live. I've been broke all my life. One more day is not going to kill me. So all I want to do is maintain my life. That's it. I just want you guys to wear your heart in your pocket. You don't have to, oh, I understand. You don't understand. You don't understand what I've been through. You ain't been where I've been. So you don't understand. And oh, it's going to be okay. How you know it's going to be okay? See, you're telling me something that don't mean nothing to me, because it was okay 2 and 3 and 4 years ago. But how you know it's going to be okay? That's just like telling me something. That's telling me a lie. That's a lie. How you know? It's been okay 4 and 5 times and I still keep messing up. But you can show me another way of life. Just give me encouragement and tell me, hey, if you want to go back to school, there's options that you can go back to school. They got things you can do that you can go back to school. You know, and it's okay, because I know you guys get overwhelmed because of the people that you're trying to help. But just take 1 or 2 minutes out to talk to that person. Don't just throw them off to the side. Okay, yeah, I'll handle that. Don't do that, because then you're going to start getting that negative feedback. They're going to start, well, if you can't, don't do that. Say, I can talk to you later, or, you know, and it's okay to keep notes. It's okay to write yourself a note. This person, because they're going to keep coming to you. And if you keep throwing them off, you're hindering, you're making them go back. Show them that somebody, if you can't help them at that time, show them somebody that can. If you don't have that question right then and there, tell them you'll get back with them. But don't do that. Don't sell us dreams. Don't tell us stories. Be real. 100. It don't cost nothing and it's free. So that's just real talk. I'm just being real, because I was homeless, been homeless ever since 2006. I done seen it. I done seen people get what they can. I done seen them manipulate. I done seen them get things and sell it to other people just so they can have money. But this is how you're going to know too, because if they're willing and determined and want to get away from homeless and start their life, start another life, ask them questions. Don't tell them you're going to help them, and don't do that. You're sinking them down, you're sinking them down, you're sinking them down. And again, if you give me something, whoever you communicate within that time, let them know you gave it to me. Oh, I gave so-and-so propane. Because you know what it is that it's always something we need. It's always something. And then you keep giving me, I'm getting entirely too comfortable. I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to stay homeless. Because I can't starve. I can't go without clothes. Because all I have to do, I can go screw up my money, and all I have to do is call you guys.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was like, so before you sit back down, I want to hear what y'all heard from Alea. What did you hear from what she was saying? What stood out to you?
100.
Be real, 100.
Be real.
Be real. Yep. What else?
Yeah, along that lines, I would say, make sure who you are with the person that you're encountering, let them be true to who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that you said put your heart in your pocket because you have to sometimes.
You do.
You have to.
You'll go home bawling all the time. No, I can't say this person can't do this, but
You can't save
sometimes
anyone.
it's okay to
Yeah.
give tough love.
Yes.
I'd rather have that than just love me.
Yes.
I know I earned that.
And they
Yeah.
still love you back.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
just get mad. They still love you back.
I think she painted a really great picture of reciprocity and what it means to be in a position to give without the expectation of, with the accountability of making sure that that follows through. And that reciprocity that you're doing something for someone that eventually will gratify you in your transformative experiences. So I think that's really important in how she outlined and imaged us to not victimize people, but to hold each other accountable in this process of reciprocity.
Absolutely. And mutuality. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. It's all priceless. It's all priceless. There's no stamp on it.
Yeah. And we've broken up fights together.
Oh my God.
We have
Me and Nancy been through so much.
We've been through so much. We've
That's
buried
my
our
angel,
friends.
man. Yeah.
We've broken up fights between grown men. like the relationships are transformative.
Yeah.
And,
It goes way beyond that, man. She's an inspiration, you know.
you're an inspiration.
She was there for me and encouraged me. That's why I said that keep going.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay. You're gonna be all right.
The biggest thing I think I can take from this is the validation that each of you are a blessing.
Oh yeah.
That
yeah.
you are truly a blessing, and that's one of the things I always try to get across is that please, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You are my blessing.
Yeah.
Don't
Everything-
just thank me. It's not. I'm not.
No.
Thank you.
I couldn't do it without you.
Well, I could.
We're all interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the
it's
broader
just, it's
scheme.
crazy.
It is
But-
crazy.
But people aren't. It's awkward sometimes when you tell someone they're a blessing.
Yeah.
They're just so unaccustomed to hearing those kinds of words.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
nice, though.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much for sharing.
Okay.
Our expert. She will jump in if there are other questions too.
Yeah,
So,
no
but
doubt.
I'm going to follow up. We're going to do about 10 or 15 more minutes on this kind of talking at you section, and then we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to do more activities. Is that cool? Okay. So just to kind of follow up, a lot of these things echo, Galea, what you were saying. With some of the do's and don'ts of building trust, some of the things we talked about on here, the making promises is huge. Don't make promises that Open Table can get someone housing, that you can get someone housing. Just that really, the trust that we're creating is super fragile and can be broken really easily. People have their trust broken over and over again.
It's a process.
It's a process of putting those threads back together and healing. And we can be a part of that healing fabric. Very importantly, almost like what you were saying, Bretton, like, you be you and let the person be the person. Don't impose on anyone else or say, or remember when we talked about it wasn't super helpful getting a ton of advice? When you're hurting in that moment, but you don't need a lot of advice or not. You don't need a lot of, oh, you should do this or that or whatever. You need somebody to listen and help you decide what your next steps are. Galea talked about being honest about your limitations. Well, I'm not sure, but let me check back in with you after I've talked to some friends. Be honest about your limitations. Don't take everything people say as full truth, but also realize people have very interesting stories and maybe what they're saying is true. Always take it with a grain of salt, right? Keep your word. Maintain confidentiality. Be genuine. 100% real. When we talk, one of the ways we try to build trust is not by boiling people down to the trait that they didn't choose for themselves. So we use person-centered language. If we're talking about someone who's experiencing mental health stuff, schizophrenia, they're not a schizophrenic. That doesn't boil them down to who they are. They're a person struggling with schizophrenia or mental health issues. They're a person first. Same with the language of addict, right? Same with the language of homeless. A lot of times we don't even think about that. The person isn't, they're not the homeless. They're people. Someone said, I'm not homeless, I'm residentially challenged. Right? And in a community like Nashville, that's not super hard to get there. So just think about the language we're using, and that kind of fosters that attentiveness and that trust too. We don't put labels on people. If you can't see, this cartoon says, it's outrageous to be labeling people bonkers in this day and age. Put this one on instead. So we try to hold each other accountable to that. And when we're forming relationships, we take the team approach. And I want to show a quick kind of diagram of what that looks like. So say this is me, and this is Valea, and we're meeting for the first time, okay? Can y'all see this? I know it's kind of low. So we're meeting for the first time, we get each other's names, say hey, whatever. Then we start building trust, right? So that line kind of forms and we have a relationship. If we stay like this, if Valea and I stay like this, there's a possibility that we will become dependent on one another. I will depend on her for my need to be needed thing, right? And she'll depend on me to fix every problem. So that we become enmeshed and codependent. It is not good to stay like this. What we encourage is, I need support around me. So this is my team at Open Table. Could be a faith community, it could be a partner, a friend. That is my support. And as I'm working with Valea, if she doesn't have any support, I'm gonna be like, Valea, here's Sunny, Valea, here's Sally, Valea, here's Lauren and Ingrid and all the people. So she has support too. Cool? So those are the kind of things. When we say team approach, we're talking about having somebody you can talk with and brainstorm with so things don't get tricky and manipulative and enmeshed. But we're also talking about being healthy for the person, right? Not to just need you.
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
People seem to want to, if I ask for help, they want to throw this book at me.
Yep. We're going to be talking about that in navigating the resources, and I would be very interested in your perspective.
Okay.
So, yes. Real quick, y'all can't see this, but we value safety at Open Table, both for the people we're working with and for ourselves. This is me walking between the tracks in the dark woods in the heart of winter, but I wasn't there by myself. We were taking supplies to a campsite, and we do not go to these places on our own. Whether we are, whatever gender we are, we don't go places by ourselves. We're always checking in with people. If we have to drop something off at a camp or at somebody's apartment or hotel, we let somebody know where we are. And as you're doing outreach, we encourage you to find those boundaries for yourself, but not to get stuck in those places where you're with somebody alone over and over and over again, because that's when the things get tricky, right? We do a little bit more with healthy boundary setting in our intermediate training, but I don't like the word boundaries. I was telling our interns earlier, when I was introduced to boundaries, it was with another service provider, and this was their boundaries. They did not pick up their phone after a certain time or on the weekends. They were not interested in relationships. They were thinking about people as clients, right? So I did this, and this didn't work well either. I burned out. I had no boundaries. So we were trying to cultivate boundaries that are there. It's like a cell membrane where it's flexible and it moves and it lets in the good things and keeps out the destructive things. But these are some of our thoughts about boundaries. We'll go in more depth, and on the handout that you'll be getting during the second part, there's a boundaries quiz, so you can kind of see how you're doing. That'll be fun. I failed all of them before, so don't feel bad if you do too. We also have some notes on confidentiality for social media and for life in general, so I hope you'll look at those. But again, we encourage everyone to be aware of where you are with your anxieties when you interact with folks, where you are, if you're overextended or not. This is burnout, this is compassion fatigue, and this is secondary trauma. It breaks us. We lose things. We lose parts of ourselves. We are not wanting anybody to get here, whether it's our friends or us. So Have people that you're checking in with. This work is not meant to be done alone. So it's great to connect with you all and to do this in community. I'm going to save some what would you do ifs after we do a short break, because our next part is going to be more interactive. So if y'all want to kind of move around for a minute, stretch, get a different seat. The restrooms are back here. There's coffee and water. We'll take about 5 minutes and then we'll come back, and it'll be interactive. So thank you for your attentiveness so far. All right, we're gonna kind of wind down. Where's the sign? Can you start passing it around, and I'll let them know it's going around. Y'all, we're gonna kind of come back around. Okay, y'all ready? For the next part? Okay, so the first thing I want to do is test your outreach knowledge and skills. This is pass or fail, so we'll see how you do. I'm just kidding. Most of these questions, there are not right answers. There could be wrong answers, but there's a lot of right answers. So I invite you to kind of like imagine what you would do. And then we're going to do an navigating the resources and active listening stuff. So what would you do if you're alone, but you need to drop off some first aid supplies at someone's campsite? And it's like back in the woods, like where we were, like train track woods, like woods. What would you do if you're alone and need to do that?
Get a buddy.
Get a buddy? That's definitely an option, yes. Say, hey, can you go with me? Yes. What else?
I would listen to my inner dialogue saying, do not go in there.
Yes. And that brings up a really good point about safety. Y'all saw on the safety slide, we always listen to our intuition and our gut, even if our head is telling us, oh, you'll be in and out, you know the people. Listen to your gut and your intuition in that situation, even if something, your head's telling you it's okay. If it feels wrong, find a way to leave, right? So get a buddy, don't go in by yourself. What else could you do?
Tell someone when you go in and out.
Yeah, it's like, hey Lindsay, I'm at the Ellington camps. I'm going to drop off some supplies to Joe. I'll let you know when I'm out. Totally. That's what we do when we have to go in by ourselves. Another option might be meeting somebody at a gas station nearby, right? Super easy. A lot of people have phones. Some people don't. What if someone asked you to come to their hotel room to meet with them?
Yeah, well, it's
There might be some internal flags there. Yeah, either get a buddy, ask them to meet at a public place, or let somebody know where you are, leave the door open, whatever. We talk through these things because all of the awful things you can imagine have happened when these things have, not really, but some rough things have come up that we've had to debrief on.
The potential's there.
What?
The potential is
The
there.
potential is there, and we're trying to keep not only the people safe, so they're not taken advantage of by our volunteers, but also keep you safe too. What about if there's that person that you're forming a relationship with and you really want to stay connected and you give them your number and then they call you like day and night and they're texting you all the time? Has that ever happened to anyone in here? Our intern. So what do you do if something like that comes up?
That's when we set boundaries and ask them to stop, or
Yeah.
if they continue, then hey, I can't help you anymore. We're not getting
Totally.
somebody else help.
Set some boundaries. So that might be like, hey, you can text me or call me during these times, like once a day. And if I don't respond, it's not because I'm mad at you. It's because I'm doing my work and I've got a lot on my plate. So set some boundaries. Stick with them. What else?
It's always helpful when you give someone your number just to tell them, hey, I don't always answer my phone right away. If you text me, like, give me time to respond.
Totally.
I may not be able to respond to everything, but just know that I'll get back to you when I can.
Set some boundaries on the front end. And don't feel pressured ever to give your number. You can say, actually, I'm just a volunteer, or I'm still a student, or I've got a full-time job, and I'm not able to give my number out right now because I can't take the calls, but I'll see you next time, you know? It's okay not to give your number.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can also provide a resource number for an organization that might fit the needs that
Totally.
might assist them in joining.
So So y'all passed on that first thing. Let's go a little bit more outreachy, okay? You're walking from your car to a meeting you can't miss, but have a few minutes to spare. Then a man who is clearly struggling hobbles up to you and asks for money. I know what Philea would say.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. But what do you do,
You
right?
done started something.
So a lot of times, I agree with you. Also in the Hebrew Bible, there's like this tradition of giving alms and a commandment to give alms. So you've got to decide where you are. A lot of times, maybe it's not the most helpful thing to give money, but how do you respond?
I just ask people, like, do you need water? I always have water and stuff in my car. Do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need this?
Okay.
And if I have it, they can have it. If I don't,
Yes.
then I'm sorry.
Or I say, can I go to McDonald's?
Yeah, can I get you
Totally.
something?
Yeah.
There are a
Absolutely.
million right answers.
Absolutely.
But what you did was you checked in with them, you took their needs as something serious.
Absolutely.
You were prepared. I was hearing the parable of the Good Samaritan the other day, and I was like, he was prepared. He had the oil for the wounds. He had the money for the hotel. Like, he was prepared. So we have for you blessing bags for you to carry in your car. Like, carry stuff with you. Socks are like gold. Bus passes are like extra gold. McDonald's cards are like extra gold. So like, find things you can carry. Affirm people's needs and dignity. If you only have a few minutes, you can tell them that. I only have a few minutes right now. Here's what I have. Would that be helpful? Can I get your name in case I see you
And it's
again?
okay to tell them, I'm not going to enable you to give you money. I'm here to help you. You know, and then, most of them get mad, but they're just going to have to get mad. Because that's what they'll do. They'll manipulate you. And once you give them that money that first time, then you have to give it to everybody else. Because there's always somebody's watching.
Yep. So let's try this one. A couple comes up to you while you're helping to serve a meal at Downtown Press and begs you to get them housing. What do? They're like in dire straits. It is really bad. They're begging you to get them housing before the winter. What do? As an outreach volunteer, as a concerned person, not as a housing navigator or social worker, right? What do?
Ask them about their situation,
Yeah.
like where they are right now, how are they existing day to day.
Yeah.
Assess the situation, and then without training, I would say, look, I know of organizations, I can't promise anything, I need to do some research, but there are places and, there's something that can be done, I don't know exactly what. And then keep asking questions.
Use your network.
Use your network. And what do we always forget? Ask them if they're already working with someone on housing.
Absolutely.
Do you already have a case manager? Are you already working with an agency in town that I could connect with and see if there's any support we could provide? What are your plans? How are you working on this? Leah, you were saying, have people ask you your goals. What are your goals? What are you already doing? What resources do you have to draw from?
Yeah,
Put it back in their court.
Talk to me.
Yep. You don't have to put out that fire, and often to be a housing navigator in the city and to access the citywide resources, you have to go through a specific training through the Homelessness Commission. It is an intense system to get subsidized housing on a fast track and not just the waiting list, which often takes years. So it's okay to talk about your limitations. There's a man you pass every day on your way home. He sells street papers on the median and lives beneath a nearby overpass. You notice that he appears to be getting weaker and more frail. He clearly is not well. What do you do from somebody that hasn't spoken? Raven?
Stop and just ask them, hey,
Yes.
do you need extra help? Are you willing to, if he needs a hospital, be willing to call for him?
Yeah.
And just stop and we having a bottle of water.
Totally.
Also to be the help to stop and just gonna say, hey, do you need any help?
Yep. Having something to offer is a step in building trust. We knew that you might need coffee or water or cookies when you came in, so we took those needs seriously and we tried to provide. We need to take people's needs seriously because that's how you build trust. And you don't know his name yet. He's just a man. Get his name. I've noticed that you're getting more frail. Anything else? That's a great, just stop. And if you're going under the underpass, let somebody know where you are, right? You were at a lunch and a woman comes up to you in tears. She is trying to escape a domestic violence situation and asks for your help. What do you do? It's one of the first questions we could ask her.
Are you in danger right now?
Are you in immediate danger? Is that person in the room with you right now? What are some of the follow-up questions? We need to, if we sit down and talk to her at a table and the abuser is in the room and sees her talking, that is really, could be really bad for her. What are some other questions we would want to ask or things we want to know from somebody that hasn't spoken yet? What else could you do?
We can ask her if she has a safe place she can go.
Yeah. Do you have somewhere safe? Do you need help getting there? Maybe it's a bus pass. Maybe it's a ride to her mother's house. Who knows? What else?
Trust her intuition with when to leave and how. And
Yes.
because really she's the expert in this situation.
Right. Don't try to make a timeline for her. We get more into depth on domestic violence stuff in our intermediate training, but we want to just kind of raise a few flags because it's so prevalent in this training. So yeah, there's a lot around creating an exit strategy, but that's on her timeline and not on yours. So understand that too. She might not be ready to go into the domestic violence shelter today, but she sure as hell needs that number in her phone saved under something else, right? So, in the navigating the resources section in a minute, we're going to get y'all to have that number and eventually program it in your phones so you know the hotline. But save it under something different in her phone. If you feel comfortable giving her your number, then that's fine. So whenever she's ready to get out, she can call you and y'all can try to make a plan. But yeah, those are some good starting things. Y'all passed. So I'm going to see if our interns can pass out the handouts, and then after you'll do that, if you can pass one of the little red books out to everybody too. So, navigating the resources in Nashville, we want to give you just enough tools to have some ways that you can have some tools in your toolbox when people ask for help, so you don't have to call us every time, or you can actually be empowered to share with people. As you can see, the first thing on your handout is the boundary quiz and then the confidentiality stuff. After that is the navigating the resources. And if you'll look at your handout, one of the things I just noticed is that the blue ink ran out. So some of your blue links, some of you might have something without the links. Do y'all see that? Does anybody have the blanks where the links would go and the little navigating? Catherine, can y'all pass out these to the people that raised their hands? Because I noticed this as we were coming up. Our blue ink ran out. If y'all can share, I can print off some more. We'll also be sending these out if you sign in. So, we'll send them out, but you can, whoever has them, use them. If you want to share, you can.
Does it have the blue?
Okay. So, navigating the resources. This is not something that can be trained in a small session like this, but we can get tools. So, I want you first to think, before you start getting into the nitty-gritty of what's on your handout and what we're about to show, I want you to think in broad categories when people are asking for help. So in Nashville, thinking about our service providers, what are some of the broad categories that people might get access services under? Some of the broad umbrellas. We've got domestic violence, right? What other categories are there? Mental health issues, right. If you have these things or fit in this category, you have special resources. What else?
Hunger.
Veterans, what?
Food, hunger.
There's certain categories for food. People with addiction, did you say? Yes, definitely. Other categories?
Just health problems in general.
Yeah, disability stuff. So these are some of the first questions we're going to ask people when we're trying to help them navigate the resources. Are you an ex-offender? Are you younger than 24 and maybe could work with a group called Oasis? Are you a youth? Are you recovering from prostitution? Are you part of a family? Is there specific resources for families with children? And always again, remember to ask if they're already working with people. That is one of the first questions you ask. Are you already working with somebody? Because you will end up doubling over what other people are trying to do, and it's not helpful. But if you collaborate, it's a lot more helpful. So we'll talk more about how to navigate these in a second. I want you to pull out your little red Where to Turn book. Y'all have it? Okay, so an orientation to this book. As Valea mentioned, this book is not helpful just to throw at people when they ask you for help. Okay, but what can be helpful is sitting with them and kind of looking through things and saying, let's look at this together, let's learn together. I'm new to the resources, full disclaimer, or whatever. It's taken me 9 years and I'm still learning resources and things are still changing, so it's a process. There is a table of contents in the front that is very helpful after the first few ads. There's an index in the back. I need the first person that can tell me the page number for domestic violence shelter, Nashville. The page number for domestic violence shelter. $57. Nice. Okay, I am living at a camp in East Nashville and I need a food box. First person that can tell me where I could find a food box, what page number? Do you need a book?
I got lots of
Boxes on boxes. That's what I figured. You're missing out.
She just said page 39.
Page 39.
It's 41.
Wait. For food boxes? Yeah, 41. Yeah. Good job, y'all. Second harvest. Okay. I need mental health care, and I'm going to need an intake number because I'm not receiving mental health care right now. $116. Yep, you can get an assessment there, yep. Awesome. Okay.
Oh, you're throwing this book at me. I'm in need. I need a food box and I need mental health.
Yep.
How am I supposed to get there?
Exactly. So as you're navigating this with people, don't just leave them in the dark about how to do it. Ask them if they know, if they feel comfortable following up on their own, or if they need somebody to help follow up with that. Do they need a bus pass? Can you help with that? Do they need an ID to get an assessment? Can you help with that? If not, who can? Don't just throw these things at people and expect them to write the number down and, do it on their own. Because it's hard to navigate this, y'all. It's complex, it's fragmented, it's broken. So people need people who will journey alongside them in this process, which is what we were talking about earlier.
And also,
not push them ahead or walk in front of them.
And also they need to know where to go, and if it's local, if it's in walking distance, if they can walk, because you don't want to enable them again.
Yep.
If they're able to do it, let them do it. And just let them know, hey, it's right down the street.
Can you draw them a map? Can you look up the bus routes for them real quick on MTA? That kind of thing. So, as you can see,
Sorry, can we talk more about the center? Because I had a total panic attack when you asked those 3 questions.
Yes.
I failed all of those. So,
yes.
terribly. And then I was going, well, are all of these these mental health places equal? Do they accept some types, some not others? And I felt completely uneducated to
Yes.
somebody else who might ask. So I'm like, I would love a class just on this book.
I know. And we might end up needing to offer that, right?
That'd be great.
But that's what that's what art we specialize in. So maybe call, if you find that number for the behavioral assessment,
Yeah.
maybe call with them.
Yeah.
Are they eligible? What do they need to have when they get there? That kind of thing. There's a table of contents in the back. There is or in the front, index in the back, but it's really hard to navigate still. I want you all to see this website. You can put this in your phone, even or your computer, even if you don't have a book, and look it up that way online. So in your handout, you should have all these and more listed. Please spend some time programming this stuff into whatever is going to be helpful for you. And I want to throw a special shout out to this number right here. Does anybody know what Mobile Crisis does in Nashville when you would call?
Mental health, but if you're in crisis, they'll come and get you.
Yes? What were you going to say?
Basically, if you're feeling suicidal.
Yeah. So if you're suicidal or homicidal because of mental health stuff, they will come to you and do an assessment. This is something to have on your phone always. The number is tattooed on my brain. So please spend some time with these numbers, okay? Programming, especially if you're doing outreach in Nashville and you're frequently seeing folks. The hotlines are really helpful to have as well. And there's more, like I said, this is just an abbreviated list.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The Nashville Police non-emergency, is that for like audits or it is
For what?
like audits or trainings or?
That's actually for like, say you have a situation, like some people use it for car wrecks or like where nobody's in immediate danger. Say that you are driving home and the conditions are getting really bad in the winter and no outreach workers have cars that will drive. You can't check on somebody, but you want to request a wellness check, which I would do with caution because it's the police. Then you could call that number. So that they kind of help when it's not necessarily 911, but you need the city to come and check something out, you know? Again, we'll talk about when to call for help and when to try to not utilize the police. So we don't, police is only when there's an immediate danger emergency kind of thing, okay? When you can't break something up.
That's why it's important to ask questions to know who you're dealing with.
Yep.
That's because, you know, if something's wrong with them mentally, you know, to ask them more questions. Do you need help? Do you need a crisis? That's why it's so important to gain that trust from that person because they're going to come to you when they need it.
Yeah. And you always take, real quick, suicidal stuff, even if you think it might just be a call for attention, we still have to take those seriously and we still try to stay in contact either physically with someone or checking in with someone if we're not physically there until the help arrives, okay? So always take that stuff seriously.
But in those moments, not suicide, but when you said like the police's last resort, so you all offer de-escalation trainings, right?
That is in either our intermediate or advanced. I'm pretty sure, well, at the end, it'll show which one the de-escalation is in, but we couch that a little bit later on after you learn some of the basics. But yeah, we do offer de-escalation trainings. And part of that is called our internships. Just kidding. Or going out with Leia on the streets. One quick expert tip on de-escalation before we get into the other stuff. If you feel comfortable carrying cigarettes with you, cigarettes are really great tools for de-escalation. I'm not saying that you should become that person that always gives out cigarettes or that you should smoke them all yourself, but I am saying that it takes somebody's anxiety seriously.
Yeah.
And if somebody's in a rough spot and you're like, hey, do you want to go out and walk around and take a smoke break with me and just get a breath of fresh air? That might be all you need. So that's de-escalation 101, and the next session will be later.
Come out for a beer.
But we do get into the parts of that. So obviously you can see when to call for help, and most of you already know this because we've been humans that have been living in uncertain times. I want to draw special attention to this. If someone's disoriented, it's sometimes not just because they're drunk or having a high. Sometimes they might have had a stroke. They might be having a seizure. There might be serious things going on. So a super quick assessment you can do is, hey, can you tell me your name? Hey, can you tell me what day of the week it is? Hey, can you tell me what year it is? Hey, can you tell me the president? Ask things like that, because if you're drinking, you're probably still going to know those things. But if you're disoriented and confused, that's when you need to call someone, okay? Brendan?
Yeah, I was going to say, if someone makes a comment like they're, obviously you're talking about big stuff, but if someone's saying like, okay, I'm going to stop drinking right now, that's a major no-no. Because if they're drinking very heavily and they stop, that's more or less like, that's more of a medical emergency.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can go into DTs.
Yeah.
So we talk a little bit more about that, like how to deal with that stuff in our intermediate training too, but it is important to know, and that's a really great point. People's bodies can go into shock, and they could be hearing voices because they're going through DTs, delirium tremens, withdrawal from the substance. Oh good, we have about the time I want. Y'all, active listening is one of my favorite things in the world. It is insane how just honing our listening skills can completely change the way we work with people and can keep us from having to fix everything with knowing all the tools and resources. Sometimes people just need to be heard. Sometimes people just need you to bear witness to the struggles they're going through and give them space to process and sort it through on their own and make their own meaning. So listening in that sense, listening not out of fear, not out of fixing mentality, oh, I have to fix this person who's talking to me, that can be transformative. So I want to spend a little bit of time introducing these skills a little bit and doing some practice with it. So we would watch a clip, but this I'll email this clip to you all. There's this really great clip from Modern Family. Have y'all seen that? Where the husband, the wife is having a terrible day, and the husband's at the spa, and he's like listening to her on the phone while he's getting a facial and his feet done, and he's like, oh, you should do all these different things than what you're doing. You should like take a different route to work. You should do all these things. And she's like, this is not helpful at all. And she hangs up the phone. And then all the women in the salon are like, you were the worst husband ever. And they talk to him, and he's like, oh, so I shouldn't tell her which route she should take if she's running late. Or like she should have taken another route. I shouldn't shame her or give her too much advice, right? I should just listen and say, oh honey, that's awful, how hard? And they're like, yeah. So there's this great scene at the end. I'm kind of narrating it for you. There's a great scene at the end. She comes home, she's exhausted, and he just hugs her and just tells her, I'm really sorry you had a terrible day. And she's like, that's all I needed. And she melts. Sometimes all people need is for us to listen to them and be present to them. So, has anybody ever gone through ORS before? ORS? Open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. These are on your handout, so please feel free to make notes. We'll be going over two a little bit more than the other two.
Is it like Steve administer training?
Well, a lot of people use this in their training. These are like the building blocks of active and reflective listening.
I think it's probably on this.
It probably is. So these are the tools in our toolbox when we're present with people, and we're going to spend some time practicing and honing a couple of these. I want to start with open-ended questions, which seems really easy, but the last time we did active listening with volunteers, they had a really hard time asking open-ended questions. These are like invitations and open doors for people to explore the situation they're in, and not for you to fact find and try to figure them out, okay? It does not feel great to have somebody super nosy who wants to figure you out, asking you closed-ended questions and directing the conversation. But open-ended questions allow you to open things up. So if y'all will look at these examples, can you tell me more about why you're having such a hard time keeping food? I know the food stamps aren't enough. Can you tell me more about that? What was it like for you when you went to 5 different mental health providers and you still couldn't get the help you needed? I'm not going to try to fix you, just tell me what it was like. If you were to change, what would be your reasons? What are your goals? What do you think you'll do next? Can you help me understand? These open the door for them to reflect and explore. Talking to somebody that's actively listening is an act of discovery, self-discovery. Is everybody really good at this? We're about to practice. Okay. That was super fast, right? But this is how we're going to roll. We're going to kind of just do a survey. We'll get into more of the nitty-gritty at later trainings. But I want you all, I'm going to tell you about a vacation I went on, which was awesome. And I want you to first try to learn about my vacation through asking closed questions that ask like a yes or no, or like, hey, where was it? Oh, I went to Florida. Okay, those are closed questions. What was the weather like? Kind of closed, kind of open. It was hot.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yes, I had fun. Closed questions first.
How long were you there?
3 or 4 days.
Was the trip long?
The drive was long. Yes.
Go to Disney.
Nope.
Did you with family?
My husband. No. I mean, kind of. So not a lot of space for me to explore, really tell you about what it meant to me, right? Now open-ended questions. Try it out.
Tell me a funny story or your favorite part of the trip.
I almost beat my husband in putt-putt, which was like epic because we're trying to have more fun. And I was like really close to beating him. That was awesome.
How did you feel before you left? And how did you feel when you came back?
I was exhausted before I left. I was feeling really stressed out, but I felt like renewed after I got back. And we don't get to take a lot of trips together, so it was really nice just to turn my phone off. Maybe one more.
What did you learn?
I learned that it's important to take a Sabbath, to take a break, and that it's important to have fun with people you love and enjoy them, you know? So it was very different, right? Just asking open or closed-ended questions and not directing it, but letting me kind of really share more about myself with you. So you're going to have a time where you're in conversation and practicing those, okay, in a little while. So remember. We're just going to, we're not going to spend a lot of time on affirmations, but I just want us to remember to affirm the strengths of the people that we're working with. And when somebody's sharing about how they've overcome something difficult, it could be really important to reflect back to them, wow, your situation was really hard, but you survived it. You're a survivor. You're not a victim, you're a survivor. That's an affirmation. And these are ways we listen to let people know that we support them and we recognize the strengths that they have. And we're going to skip the practices for these because I'm sure that y'all can be very affirmative. Except for, say somebody is really demanding, say somebody is really dissatisfied, say they are maybe even manipulative, okay? These are some of the folks that we meet, right? It's hard for us to get in with them. What is a strength that they have? They're resourceful.
You have some skills of leadership.
You have some leadership skills. You know how to coordinate. You know how to get people behind what you're doing. Yeah, so what affirmations can we give to them? The most difficult, think of the most difficult people that you've met. How can we affirm them?
It sounds like you're very strong in your beliefs.
It sounds like you're strong in your beliefs. Totally. You don't let other people shape the way you think. You really know yourself. What else?
Tenacious.
You're tenacious. You don't just accept what folks hand you. You really think about what you want and you try to get it. Like, right? You're very good at mobilizing the resources you need. How can we affirm even the most difficult people and say that we see that spark in them? You've been kicked out of every service provider in Nashville, but you're still going. Tell me how you manage that. How do you keep going? That's a way to build trust and connect and get deeper in with that person that everyone else has dismissed, right?
might hit a button then.
And you might hit a button.
They'll be like, I don't know, why did you say that? No. But they'll backflash on that. But that's really, that's real.
Yeah.
Let them know, okay. You're still going, and I did all I can to help you. I mean, where you gonna help me at?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Totally.
I mean, help me to help you.
Yeah. So that would be a really good open-ended question for somebody in this place. A reflection and then a question. So, yeah. We're going to spend a little bit more time with reflections because reflections that are like the heart of active listening. These can be as simple as repeating something back to somebody that they say so they can hear it anew. Or it can kind of like consider or continue exploring where they are. It also allows you to check in without sounding judgmental. So let me try this one on you. Someone has come to you, maybe one of these guys, and you say, you don't think your drinking is a problem? I went up at the end, right? You don't think your drinking is a problem? How does that sound? Judgmental.
Yeah.
If I do it as a reflection, you don't think your drinking is a problem. I have just reflected something back to them, and they can do whatever they want with that. As simple as taking the question mark off and deflecting at the end, right? You don't think
That's when that survival mode starts kicking in.
Yeah.
How are you going to tell me you don't think? I mean, you haven't been through where I've been through.
You don't want people to get defensive with you.
You don't want that.
Yeah. So you're feeling, it sounds like